Spam email is one of the curses of the modern era. The Simple Mail Transfer Protocol, or SMTP, is the standard email traffic relies on, but what made it so successful as one of the bedrock technologies powering the internet, its simplicity, also made it vulnerable to every flavor of bad actor imaginable. With SMTP, it's trivial to spoof the name of a sender. This person isn't named Broken Metabolism, and this message isn't really from USAA. And it's also incredibly easy to send your message through a server you really have no business using. And there's no cost to send. This combination of factors has made spam ubiquitous and an ever-increasing problem. Although spam email is nothing new, from time to time it's possible to be surprised by a particularly persistent or annoying flavor of it. That happened starting in about February 2024, when new spam messages started arriving in inboxes nationwide from a company called Event Horizon LLC. There isn't any reason you would have heard of this company. In fact, it's not even clear where it's located. The address given in the spam messages, as required by the CAN-SPAM Act, is just the Delaware Chamber of Commerce in Dover, a false address that is not actually the company's headquarters. And while the reference to Delaware suggests that Event Horizon LLC is a Delaware LLC, it doesn't necessarily have to be. There are also companies called Event Horizon LLC in Pennsylvania, registered to this dilapidated house in Hershey, Florida, and two in Delaware, with the most recent having been incorporated in 2021. Unfortunately, even after the passage of the Corporate Transparency Act, which will force LLCs to disclose ownership information in private to the federal government, Delaware is still notorious for not offering up ownership information of LLCs on any sort of public register, so it's next to impossible to determine who actually owns a company. There is a Better Business Bureau profile for Event Horizon LLC, which displays an address in Portland, Oregon with an Oregon phone number. The reviews all complain of the same issue, relentless spam, but there's no particular reason to think that the company has anything to do with Oregon at all. There are clues elsewhere. The email messages themselves are the obvious place to start. Each message seems to come from a different fake organization with an easy-to-remember 2- or 3-letter abbreviation and professional graphic design. Or at least they might be easy to remember if there weren't so many of them. The dividend owner, the investment beacon, R&T, not to be confused with RT or Russia Today, ETF. These messages come into the same email account minutes after one another. And even though they're all coming from different fake organizations, they all kind of look the same, as though they've been drafted from some sort of template by someone using a large language model that has been instructed to come up with dumb newsletters. Some of the titles aren't even grammatically correct, like eyes openers, which would sound off to any native English speaker. Each message has a link to unsubscribe, as well as a supposed privacy policy and a physical mailing address, but the addresses are bogus and the unsubscribe links are functionally useless. Salesforce appears to provide the technical infrastructure for all of this, and although they're aware of the problem, they have refused to take any action to stop it. Although each Salesforce unsubscribe link points to a working website, and that website confirms that you have successfully unsubscribed, you simply haven't. Unwanted email continues to come in not only from the fake organization whose newsletter you just unsubscribed from, but inevitably from 20 others as well. What makes this particular collection of spam emails so interesting is that despite looking so similar, it's not just Event Horizon LLC that is named in each one. Several appear to come from completely different companies, such as Inception Media LLC, Prestige Publishing LLC, Finance and Investing Traffic LLC, and Paradigm Press LLC. There are also some messages that seem to be sent by more than one company at once. Almost all of them are investment themed somehow, and they sometimes mention analytics firms such as Chaikin Analytics or Weiss Ratings. Sometimes spam is sent by unscrupulous organizations that don't really care if what they put in the message is accurate. Before his stock holdings made him a billionaire, Airbnb CTO Nathan Wacharczyk used to run an outfit called Data Miners that sent this kind of spam using custom hybrid Linux and Windows PCs that Wacharczyk called the DM1. Spam sent through the DM1 often did not comply with the CAN-SPAM Act, although his operations largely predated the law. But in contrast to Wacharczyk's spam, these messages seem to be put together by someone or a group of people who are at least concerned with the appearance of legal compliance. Clicking on the link in one of the emails from Prestige Publishing LLC turned out to reveal a major clue. The man making the sales pitch on a website menacingly called The Control Plan wasn't trying very hard to hide his identity.
You're probably wondering, who am I? That's a good question. Not many people know my name. And that's because I've purposefully stayed in the shadows for over a decade, working closely with some of the biggest names in politics, finance, and economics.
His name is Peter Coyne, and he is a former congressional staffer for Ron Paul. This clip demonstrates one of the many tactics used in this kind of material: the illusion of secrecy, as though the viewer is being let in on some grand scheme that only a few rich and powerful people know. Interestingly, Coyne's video is deliberately rendered with a browser plugin that has the typical slider control disabled, so while you're watching, you can't tell where you are in the video or how long the entire thing is. As it turns out, it's 59 minutes and 47 seconds long, far longer than one might expect. Coyne is also the supposed founder of Paradigm Press, which is part of something called Agora Financial. But the most remarkable thing about any of these organizations is the fact that any person at all would be willing to associate their name with this type of content. The kind of content designed to scare primarily Republicans and the elderly into shelling out money to survive the absolute nightmare scenario of Michelle Obama running for president. Here's a roughly 2-minute supercut of what Coyne's video, promoted in Paradigm Press's spam emails, has to offer.
Warning, the following video is controversial. It contains ideas, political views, and conclusions that will offend 50% of America. Viewer discretion is advised.
Inside this building, located just a few miles away from the White House in Washington, D.C., my research leads me to believe that the Democrats have rigged an ingenious plan to 100% legally steal the election from Donald Trump. Now, this is not an official government building, and I believe it's ground zero for an announcement that will lock the 2024 election for one candidate no one is paying attention to right now. And it will cement the Democrats' secret plan to rig the 2024 election in their favor. This big steal cost Trump his presidency in 2020. And now, well, it's time again to prepare for the Democrats' plan to rig the 2024 election. Because what the Democrats have planned next will make the fake Russian collusion story and the Hunter Biden laptop suppression story look like child's play. Because just recently, without a book or anything else to promote, Michelle Obama took to a high-profile podcast with millions of followers for an interview that got political. The U.S. could be officially dragged into the world war we see unfolding today, ushering in sweeping debt defaults, another Great Depression, hyperinflation, currency controls, a digital dollar that will give the government control over your money, a total takeover of our healthcare system, which will leave you sick and without the drugs you need, a renegotiation of our seniors' Social Security and Medicare benefits, amnesty to all illegal immigrants and even criminals and terrorists. And even Bill O'Reilly has come out saying Michelle Obama is the only Democrat who could beat Trump. So think about your physical gold as your protection, but this speculation will be a way to go for big, fast gains from gold. There's a yearly investment that I think you'll find more than fair. It covers the cost of my firm's research. But today, here, now, you won't even need to pay $995. You deserve every advantage you can have against the weaponization of the U.S. government. And that's why on this page, I'm slashing the price of your investment today for just $99. That's for the entire next quarter.
The control plan or control group video, it seems like they never settled on a name for this one, is apocalyptic, scaremongering, and fairly characterized as disinformation, with of course the twist that it is also trying to con viewers into paying Mr. Coyne and whatever organization he really works for $99 every 3 months. Basically all of the emails coming in share these characteristics. They are anti-democratic, explicitly pro-Russian, pro-Republican, sensationalist, nonsensical, right-wing political propaganda in the guise of investment advice newsletters. If Russian intelligence is not in some way behind many of these messages, it would be a remarkable coincidence. It's already well documented that Russia has a grip on the Republican Party. Perhaps Vladimir Putin learned a lesson. There's no need for Russia to employ something like the Internet Research Agency anymore when American industry will spread its propaganda on its own for a healthy profit. These emails are actually coming from Agora Financial's parent company, a company that doesn't get much press unless you happen to live in the city where it's headquartered, Baltimore, Maryland. Prestige Publishing LLC, Agora Financial LLC, Web Impact LLC, Inception Media LLC, and most likely Event Horizon LLC are all part of a network of companies controlled by or associated with something called Monument and Cathedral Holdings, which is a reference to an intersection of Monument and Cathedral streets in downtown Baltimore. Monument and Cathedral doesn't have a website, but Agora does, and it's really all the same thing. The business was started by Bill Bonner, a financial writer with a decidedly libertarian bent, who also founded Rancho Santana, a Nicaraguan getaway resort, which is now a supposed hangout for Monument and Cathedral employees, but more realistically serves as a timeshare-like sales opportunity for its publications and their real estate-hungry readers. Rancho Santana even has its own hour-long YouTube sales brochure, and it works. Many readers buy vacant lots. The Monument Cathedral / Agora network of companies is based in a much less exotic locale than Nicaragua. A dozen or so Baltimore row houses, and thanks to the company's success, a new modern office, that are operated by yet another LLC, 14 West Administrative Services LLC. It employs copywriters of all sorts, nearly 700 of them, and most of the press you'll find from local Baltimore newspapers talks about how great the company's work environment and perks are. What those articles don't mention is exactly what the copywriters are writing: scam content. Although this comes out a bit more on Reddit. Since Bill Bonner is now somewhere in retirement, although he still makes YouTube appearances to talk about the allure of gold, the companies are now run by Miles Noren, who has a significant stake in the publicly traded company MarketWise. You may think you've heard of MarketWise, but that could be because it sounds confusingly similar to MarketWatch, the News Corporation subsidiary. MarketWise hasn't been having such a great time in the market lately, but interestingly, some of its brands, like Chaikin Analytics, do feature in the spam messages that Monument Cathedral has been sending out. We aren't the first to have noticed that the Agora network of companies is engaged in shady business practices. In 2019, the Federal Trade Commission filed suit against Agora and several of its related LLCs, eventually winning a consent decree and a $2 million fine. But that apparently wasn't enough to deter Miles Noren. Since then, it's clear that the companies have only ramped up their operations, despite consistent violations of the consent decree as documented by Truth in Advertising. But this has made Noren's enterprise one of the supposedly most successful companies in Baltimore, which is a sad commentary on the city if true. So, if you're receiving spam email with a distinctly right-wing bent posing as financial marketing or even suspect health tips, there's a good chance it's coming from Baltimore, or Russia by way of Baltimore. You can report Agora Financial and Monument and Cathedral holdings to the Federal Trade Commission at www.ftc.gov, or you can read the existing consent decree between the FTC and the Agora companies on plain sight using the link in the description below.